You ever notice how like every conversation eventually turns to bosses? It's like good bosses, bad bosses. You know what I mean?
No, totally. It's universal.
Right. Like everyone's got a story. And today we're actually going to dive into a piece called The Workplace We Build.
Okay.
That really digs into this whole idea of leadership and how different leadership styles can actually create completely different work environments.
Yeah. And what's really interesting about this piece is that it's not just like a dry theoretical, analysis.
Right.
It's told through a story.
Yeah.
Which I think makes it so much more engaging and relatable.
Exactly. And the story revolves around two leaders, Vikram and Ananya.
Okay.
And they are like night and day in terms of their leadership styles.
So it's kind of like a comparison, almost like an archetype.
Yeah, exactly. And what makes it even more compelling is that we see all of this through the eyes of Arjun, who actually gets to experience both of these leadership styles firsthand.
Interesting.
So buckle up, because it's quite a ride.
I'm ready.
All right, so imagine this. You're Arjun, fresh out of school. You land what you think is your dream job.
Okay.
And then you meet your boss, Vikram.
Uh-oh.
And Vikram is, well, let's just say he's a bit intense.
A bit intense, okay.
Yeah, the piece actually uses the term toxic leadership
Okay.
to describe Vikram's approach.
And how do they define that?
They define it as a style that's characterized by fear and control and basically a lack of trust in employees.
Got it. So not exactly setting people up for success.
No, not at all. I mean, he's constantly micromanaging, shutting down any ideas that aren't his own and just creating this like pressure cooker environment.
Yeah, you can really feel that just reading it. I mean, that kind of environment can be so stifling, especially for someone like Arjun who's, fresh out of school, eager to learn and contribute.
Oh, absolutely. And poor Arjun spends a good chunk of time feeling like he can't speak up, he feels trapped.
Right.
But then he manages to get a new job.
Okay.
Thinks he's finally escaped Vikram's clutches.
Get away?
He thinks he got away. But, well, I don't want to spoil the surprise.
This is a twist.
Let's just say fate, or maybe bad luck, has other plans for Arjun.
Okay, so he encounters Vikram again.
He does.
Wow.
And this time he decides to do something about it.
Oh? Okay, so he doesn't just stay silent.
He decides to talk to his new boss, Ananya, about his experience.
That's a bold move, especially in a new job.
It is. But it also speaks to the kind of leader Ananya is.
How so?
Well, unlike Vikram, Ananya is all about trust and transparency. So when Arjun tells her about what happened with Vikram, she actually listens to him, validates his experience, and basically reassures him that, like, hey, your work will speak for itself.
It's interesting because her reaction right there really highlights this idea of psychological safety in the workplace.
Yeah.
Which the workplace we build talks about a lot. That feeling of being able to speak up without fear of, being punished or ridiculed.
Absolutely. And that simple act of listening, of creating that safe space. It has this ripple effect throughout the entire workplace.
It's powerful.
It really is. It just shows you the difference between like stepping into two completely different worlds.
Yeah, and that's what the workplace we build does so well. It goes beyond just describing these styles. Like it digs into how they actually shape the whole organizational culture. It argues that these aren't just individual preferences, like the impact is way bigger. It affects performance innovation, even the well-being of the entire team.
It's true. And, it makes you realize that we as individuals actually have a choice in the kind of leadership we embody. Even if we're not like in a formal leadership position,
Absolutely. Like that choice to lean towards, a Vikram style or an Ananya approach, it creates a ripple effect that goes beyond just ourselves.
Yeah.
It impacts everyone around us.
Totally. And the story really brings that to life. It's not just theoretical. You see how those choices play out in the day-to-day dynamics of a workplace.
And it's not even limited to like managers or, team leaders.
Right.
The workplace we build argues that even individual contributors, they have a role to play in shaping the work environment.
Yeah.
It suggests we all have this responsibility to...
Hold on. Before we get too far ahead of ourselves,
Okay.
I want to rewind for a second and talk about how Vikram and Ananya actually give feedback.
Okay.
Because that's where things get even more interesting.
Feedback, yeah, it's a critical aspect of leadership. And as we see in this story, it can be wielded very differently, depending on the leader's approach.
So with Vikram, you can probably guess what it's like.
I have a feeling.
It's all criticism all the time. He focuses on your flaws, makes you feel small, and never really offers any guidance on how to improve.
Ouch.
It's almost as if he's intentionally trying to keep you down.
Yeah, his feedback style is very much in line with his whole toxic leadership approach.
Right.
The workplace we build actually connects that behavior to a leader's own insecurity, suggesting that leaders like Vikram, they use feedback as a way to control and limit others, because they feel threatened by their team members' potential growth.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like they're trying to maintain their power by holding others back.
Exactly. Now, contrast that with Ananya. Her feedback is totally different.
Okay, how so?
She focuses on your strengths, helps you see your potential, and genuinely wants to see you grow. Her feedback is constructive, supportive, and it actually empowers you to improve.
It's like she understands that her success as a leader is directly tied to the success of her team.
Exactly. And that's a key takeaway from the workplace we build. It emphasizes that truly effective leaders, they're the ones who recognize that fostering growth in others that ultimately contributes to their own success and the success of the organization as a whole.
Right.
They're not threatened by their team's accomplishments. They celebrate them.
I love that. Think about your own experiences.
Yeah.
Have you encountered leaders who are more like Vikram or more like Ananya? How did their feedback styles make you feel?
Good question.
Did they motivate you to improve, or did they leave you feeling kind of defeated?
Right. These are really important questions to reflect on. And you know what? The workplace we build even suggests that even if you're not in a management role, you can still adopt certain aspects of Ananya's feedback style.
Okay.
In your interactions with colleagues and peers.
I like that. So what specific advice does the piece give for fostering a more positive and empowering work environment?
Well, it really emphasizes the importance of creating a culture of open communication.
Yeah, where people feel safe, to share their ideas,
right,
to give and receive feedback without worrying about being judged or punished.
And it's not just about speaking up either.
Yeah.
The workplace we build really highlights the importance of active listening.
Yeah.
Really hearing what others have to say.
Yeah.
Even if you don't necessarily agree with them, that's essential for building trust and understanding.
It's about recognizing that everyone has something valuable to bring to the table.
Right.
Even if their perspective is different from our own.
Exactly. And remember that piece we mentioned earlier, beyond the desk, level up with resilience.
Yeah.
Well, it ties in perfectly here.
Okay, how so?
One of the core ideas in that piece is this idea of building a workplace that values resilience.
So not just accepting failure, but actually seeing it as an opportunity to learn and grow.
Exactly. And that kind of environment, where people feel safe to take risks, to experiment, to even fail sometimes.
Right.
That's when true innovation and growth can really happen.
And that all comes back to leadership, doesn't it?
It does.
The kind of leadership we choose to embody, the kind of workplace we choose to create.
The workplace we build makes a really compelling case for a leadership style that prioritizes trust and transparency and genuine care for the well-being of employees. It argues that this approach not only leads to a more positive and fulfilling work experience, but also drives better results for the organization as a whole.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something for you to ponder.
Okay.
Think about your own workplace, or maybe even just your personal life. What kind of leader are you? Do you lead with fear and control like Vikram?
Right.
Or do you foster trust and collaboration like Ananya?
And even if you're not in a formal leadership position, remember, each of us has the power to influence the culture around us.
Right.
We can all contribute to building a more positive, supportive, and resilient workplace, one interaction at a time.
That's a great point. The workplace we build really gives us a lot to think about, doesn't it?
It does. It's a reminder that the choices we make as individuals, they have this ripple effect that extends far beyond ourselves.
Yeah.
By consciously choosing to lead with empathy and compassion and a genuine desire to see others thrive,
right,
we can create a workplace that benefits everyone.
Food for thought indeed. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of leadership and workplace culture.
Absolutely.
We hope you found it insightful and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Until next time, keep striving to build a better workplace for yourself and those around you. Of open communication.
Right, where people feel comfortable, sharing ideas, giving and receiving feedback, without that fear of being judged or,
Yeah, and it's not just about speaking up either. Like, the workplace we build really emphasizes that active listening piece.
Oh, total.
Really taking the time to hear what others have to say, even if you don't agree with them.
Yeah.
That's so important for building that trust.
It is. It's recognizing that everybody has something valuable to offer.
Right.
And even if their perspective is different.
Exactly. And remember that piece we mentioned earlier?
Yeah.
Beyond the desk, level up with resilience.
Yeah.
Well, that ties in here too.
Okay. How so?
Like, one of the big ideas there is building a workplace that values resilience.
So not just accepting failure,
right,
but like seeing it as a chance to learn and grow.
Exactly. And it's in that kind of environment, where people feel safe to take risks, to experiment, to even fail sometimes.
Yeah.
That's where you see the innovation and the growth.
It all comes back to leadership, doesn't it?
It really does.
Like the kind of leadership we choose, the kind of workplace we create.
The workplace we build makes a really strong case for a leadership style that puts trust and transparency first.
Yeah.
And genuine care for people. And it argues that, that approach not only makes work better for everyone,
right,
but it actually gets better results for the company too.
It's a win-win.
It is.
So as we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to think about. Think about your own workplace or even just your life, What kind of leader are you? Are you more like Vikram or more like Ananya?
That's a good question. And even if you're not a manager or a team leader, remember, we all have the power to shape the culture around us.
Absolutely.
We can all work towards making our workplaces more positive and supportive and resilient.
Love it. The workplace we build really gives us a lot to think about.
It does.
It reminds us that the choices we make, they have this ripple effect,
Absolutely.
They go way beyond just ourselves.
And when we choose to lead with empathy and compassion, and really want to see others do well, that creates a workplace that benefits everyone.
Some great food for thought. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into leadership and workplace culture.
My pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed it and maybe even feel a little inspired.
Until next time, keep working on building a better workplace.
Yes.
For yourself and the people around you.